I want to talk about Skeleton Crew here real quick. This isn't going to be a review. I haven't watched the first couple of episodes that are out, okay? So we're not going to discuss character motivations, the plot that's going on, or anything like that. I just simply want to opine on a couple of the things that I've heard from the people that I respect that have watched the show, and a couple of things that are also being foreshadowed. And, well, given the fact that nobody is really paying attention to what's going on, okay, in the wider scope of things, and out of just sheer obligation to continuing to cover Disney Star Wars stuff, nobody's really excited about this. There's the shills that are out there that are, trying to virtue signal in their own light, but I think in general, this series really underscores where we're at in regards to Star Wars. If it wasn't an obligation for most, no one would be talking about this. So in a way, it's interesting, right? Because there are a couple of things in the future that we're going to talk about that Disney, Lucasfilm, just feels the need to slide right in, because as much of an apathetic take as most people have for Lucasfilm at this point in time, that doesn't mean that your ideological opponents are going to take the opportunity to slack 1 minute, and you'll wonder why they continue to win with everything. But on the rare occasion where you have IGN come out with a good take, or actually an apt assessment of the situation. I'm not talking about the 7 that's there. I mean, it's a day that ends in Y. IGN hands out a 7. I mean, the meme is reality for a reason. But they're summarizing what I've heard a lot of people that I respect talk about this. Okay, so here's their little blurb. This show will have to pay off its foreshadowed mysteries in a satisfying way if it hopes to leave us with something half as memorable as its inspiration. But the fact that there seems to be a story justification for the 80s nostalgia bait aesthetic it slathers on is a good sign of things to come. Hey, it reminds me of things that I remember. You remember Star Wars? They were playing with Star Wars toys and pretending that they had lightsabers. Remember that? That means that it's good. The way that that's summarized right there, that little blurb, that the singular sentence doesn't really tell me that that is something that's good, that in a traditional 10-point scale would be worthy of something 2 standard deviations above average. You don't really think so. It really does sound like the 3 or the 4 that a lot of people are describing this as. Like, yeah, they have characters. It looks decent. Okay, that should be the bare minimum. But yeah, okay, if you want to compare it to the rest of Star Wars, it's a massive step up, where it's like, if the best that you can do in order to promote a project is compare it against something else, you're not really doing a great job. And this also speaks to a wider aspect, and something that, yeah, I would very much like to opine on, and it's not a unique Star Wars issue, but it's something that they definitely exploit. Star Wars, and I forget who said it, so I don't want to necessarily attribute it to anyone else, but I can't take credit for this, but Star Wars has become self-referential. Like, there was a point in time, yeah, with the original trilogy, maybe with the Clone Wars, and yeah, definitely with the prequels, I can talk about those. They weren't telling a story by referencing things that they used to do. They were building the world out. They were exploring characters that, yeah, in the prequels you met in the original trilogy, but they weren't constantly stuck in the cycle of never evolving and only being about Star Wars, which is what the trapping of all of Disney Star Wars has found themselves in. And it's really highlighted with the fact that the meta has seeped into the production so deeply that you have Star Wars characters playing with Star Wars toys. But you can also say that about a multitude of different franchises and projects that are out there right now. How much slop do you see out of Hollywood, especially in the movie sense, that is just all about referencing itself? Marvel is very much at this point in time subject to those trappings as well. But whenever you have a reboot or a sequel, you're not trying to iterate on it. You're not trying to build on something. You're just simply stuck on the shoulders of giants, not hoping to reach for anything greater than that. And that's why we've been in such a cultural malaise for arguably 25 years-ish. Things really haven't iterated that much since the late 90s, early 2000s. That's what we're finding out with all of these nostalgic movies that are now supposed to be taking a mid to late 2000s aesthetic. And it's like, yeah, it's really not all that different. Coming back around to Skeleton Crew, yeah, it's being pitched as Goonies in space, which Goonies came out a little bit before my time. It's one of those films that was, yes, very much of the time, that was seminal for a lot of people, for Gen Xers for sure, but as somebody who was born in 1990, it didn't really hit with me. I didn't watch it when I was growing up. I'm not likely to go back and ever check it out. It's kind of like The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, all that crap, wasn't something foundational to me. It's not something that, is probably going to hit like that. If I go back and, take a look at it now with my jaded ass eyes. And perhaps it's why I don't have such a fondness like so many other people do when it comes to Star Wars, because properly sitting down and watching the OT, yeah, I was very much in my 20s when I properly did that, because I probably seen Return of the Jedi, bits and pieces of it the most growing up, but experiencing Empire at the time, those foundational years, didn't do that. Probably seen, yeah, bits and pieces of A New Hope, but yeah, that really wasn't my thing, okay? And the whole idea, and Skeleton Crew being pitched as, oh yeah, it's for kids, okay, it's for single-digit kids, shouldn't go in so hard on it, protect the kids. Like, okay, cool. I remember growing up, right? Like, okay, everybody has their foundational media, what you remember watching, and for some people, yeah, it's Star Wars, but my personal experience, my lived experience, I was very much more entrenched in sports, specifically hockey, football, and baseball. A little bit of basketball as well, but yeah, definitely the big four team sports. And wrestling. Okay, that's what I grew up on. That's what a bulk of my time, my entertainment time, was dedicated to, and a whole bunch of B movies, whatever was playing on TBS or whatever we'd pick up at the movie store on the weekends. But none of my foundational memories when it comes to media has anything to do with, oh, I can see myself on screen. Oh, there's kids there. I'm a kid too. That means that I should like that. No. Even when we're talking like a Disney classic films, like you cast your minds back, and some of my favorite ones, Hercules. Okay, I'm not exactly the son of a Greek god, even though you could mistake me for with this physique, but I remember major story beats of that, even though I haven't seen it in a very long time. Same with Aladdin. Arguably, I knock it back and forth. It's probably my favorite Disney film, and not really all that Al about me, really. That is stuff that resonated with me, and people also of my age having similar reference points. Just goes to show you that media to resonate with children doesn't have to include children. And even just simply going back to a Star Wars reference, what was the most infamous aspect of the prequels? Was that young Anakin? Yeah, I rest my case. So the faulty premise that this is, oh, it's for kids, why are you paying attention to it? Well, it's a commentary on how far the Star Wars brand has fallen, and then at the same time, it holds no water as a critique for me, because if it's good enough to put on a streaming service, it's good enough to critique, and then also, when it comes to Lucasfilm itself, it's also good enough to throw in a bit of the message, because they cannot leave well enough alone, which means if you're honest and you're committed to rooting this crap out of it, staying on guard and consistent, yeah, that's quite pivotal to this, because as you can see, like even with the IGN review, and they're pointing out, and because there's only 2 episodes that are out, and only a couple of the critics have access to episode 3 or any more of the series, I think it's 8 episodes or something like that, whatever, man. But episode 3, it's gonna have the message, because it introduces a bunch of the characters, at least some of the parents that haven't yet been revealed. I know that there's one that's out there, and he's apparently going to be on his own plot line that's out there, and it's like, okay, you're telling me at least one adult-centric plot line is going to be going on, so that means that the parents in general are going to be of some kind of importance. But yeah, the revelation that, there's going to be some interesting casting when it comes to the parents. Disney's taking the opportunity to normalize some stuff. Skeleton Crew is being billed as a show for children, but Lucasfilm, it can't help itself from inserting woke identity politics. Now, popular film reviewer Chris Gore, Film Thread, of course, shout out, has revealed that in episode 3, one of the children's parents is revealed to have 2 moms, and another push for big gay ideology in kids programming. Disney has done more to destroy the Star Wars brand this year than anyone could have thought possible. Yeah, the Acolyte coming out earlier this year. Probably them realizing, and because Skeleton Crew has been worked on for a while, this was always a part of it, but yeah, the Acolyte, that was one step too far. Because here's the thing when it comes to these ideologues, they're never going to stop with their push. If you've been watching media, if you've been around for as long as I can, you can cast your mind back, you know that there's always been this level of hatred for just normal, successful relationships. Okay, there has been an undermining of masculinity and men in media for generations, okay? Arguably, it started with Married with Children with, Al Bundy, Al, being a bumbling, albeit well-meaning father, okay? Homer Simpson, exact same thing, even though, as the show continued to progress, he lost his well-meaning and then just descended into complete stupidity, but it was grounded, right? My favorite Christmas film, one that I'm more than likely going to be watching before the season is over, Christmas Vacation. You have Clark Griswold. He is super inept, but he is well-meaning, and he ultimately overcomes his shortcomings, and his wife doesn't denigrate him, is incredibly supportive of him. It's still an undermining, but it's a little bit easier to stomach. Okay, but again, that's a film that came out, 89 or 90, something like that? Like that's, 30 plus years ago at this point in time. Where now, in recent years, there's just an outright attack on proper white families. Like, it's easy for everybody to see. And we got there incrementally. And whenever there is such an encroachment like the Acolyte, the other side of this culture war, they will go ahead. They will go ahead and assess that. But they're not going to take too many steps back. They already got, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps forward. They pushed the line that far. And then they'll go, okay, cool. Well, we won't go as far as we did with the Acolyte. So they'll go ahead and take one step back, and then they'll hold the line right there. Just wait for your apathy, okay? But then continue to push their message, which is what they're doing here with the Acolyte, because there's a kid that has 2 moms, okay? Another one of the kids that are in there has a single mom. Another kid that's in there has a single dad. The only traditional nuclear family is apparently for the little elephant kid who has a mom and a dad at home. Which is, non-reflective of your traditional American family. Unless, of course, you live at the border where, there's a bunch of intact alien families. But I digress. See, that's what's going on here, right? You got your motley crew. Oh, you've got, your gender-ambiguous lead character. You've got your bossy Tom girl. You got your robot because it's Star Wars. And see, it's just a nice eclectic mix of a bunch of different archetypes of kids you knew when you were growing up. Except I grew up around Tom girls. They palled around and played with the guys growing up because, they didn't really like hanging out with the bratty chicks and were just kind of going along to get along. They weren't bossy, brash, and brazen about their competence and mechanics. And the fact that if these were teenagers, young adults, or hell, even the cast for the new sequel trilogy, people would be aptly pointing out that, oh yeah, cool, you got another boring brunette female protagonist that has far too many skills that are unaccounted for that somehow make her ingratiated to everyone we meet. Funny thing about that, but no. Guys, it's for kids. You shouldn't pay attention to any of that stuff, even though it's right there in the face of the kids that this show is apparently for. And so, pointing this stuff out is important when it's in the forefront. You know what they're trying to do, but they're also trying to sneak it in through the back door. Not like that, the one instance where Disney's not trying to do it in that way, okay? It's still there. They're being a little bit more subtle about this. But it's funny. It's funny how people are willing to just go ahead and turn a blind eye when it comes to this, even though it's right there directly in your face, but in regards to something that I can speak a little bit more to, given the fact that, I've played like hundreds of hours of this game, unironically. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and people pointing out, oh, there's woke aspects of it. See, there's a gay couple, oh, there's a lesbian couple, oh, and there's a multiracial family. It's like, as you can see right there, how many of those characters do you think are very much in the background? Now, I didn't even notice. I legitimately didn't notice anything like that taking place in the Gold Saucer, because that's what the top screen is from. Okay, you got Cosmo Canyon with a gay couple that's down there, and it's kind of funny how Cosmo Canyon's depicted in that game. There's a bunch of woke freaks that are very much wrong about everything, and I can't necessarily nail down where the lesbians are at, but that's background stuff. And you know what? Here's the thing. Those relationships, as much as I have my opinions on them that I can't express due to YouTube terms of service, they're out there, man. You got a single dad with a white woman, okay? It's like, that very much happens. You got 2 black guys that are out there, being gay in the desert. I'm sure that happens as well. The only thing that's unrealistic about the lesbian relationship is there's not anybody wearing flannel, or there isn't a U-Haul in the background. Outside of that, everything seems to be on the up and up. But you take a look at the comments on this post, and it's like, oh my god, bro, way too many black people in Rebirth. It's like, that's kind of weird to point out. The only time that I actually had that criticism, okay, is when you go to what is supposed to be a secluded part of the map, and they say specifically, it's like, oh, we don't get too many visitors around here. And then you take a look, and it's like, it's very much analogous to modern downtown LA. Very strange decision to put so many varied looking NPCs down here. But anyways, but yeah, everybody going, oh yeah, oh, Final Fantasy VII's overrated. This is the reason Square Enix is bleeding woke cancer, when it's NPCs in the background. This doesn't matter, okay? You'll have people nitpick this stuff, but then at the same time, the one that's right there in your face for a company that has done this for the 15 years that they've had the project, okay? Naoki Hamaguchi, Yoshinori Kitase, and the entire team over at Final Fantasy VII Remake Project have shown you time and time again, they're not out here to push an ideology. They're here to tell a story that they very much have in mind, as opposed to Disney Lucasfilm, which is all about the message. What was Kathleen Kennedy's? One of her big off-rip proclamations: the Force is female. She has been all about pushing this stuff before, but no. Don't criticize the Skeleton Crew because it's made for kids, when in actuality, they made it for kids to push the message, because they know that they can go ahead and push it right in your face. But at the end of this series, like, I don't know, man. I don't know how many people are going to still be checking in on this stuff 5-6 weeks later when the series ultimately wraps up. I'd imagine there's probably going to be some big intergalactic high-stakes battle towards the end that'll just ultimately have giant ramifications on the Star Wars universe, because they just can't help themselves at this point. It couldn't be some contained little story that's off in one unexplored corner of the galaxy telling a unique tale. No. I'm sure it'll have some lore-destroying stuff, and people will get upset about that, but hey, what's the point, right? Because this is a story about children, made for children. Why are you getting so upset, bro? No, I'm not upset. I'm just consistent. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.